Not in Staten Island anymore. Out here in Aruba, and today we're going to talk about traveling with drones, because I just traveled on an airplane with a bunch of drones, and I know a lot of other people are curious about doing this as well. So I want to give some of my thoughts, best tips, and practices for getting your drone to your beautiful destination. First thing you need to know when you're planning to travel with a drone is what the rules are when you get to your location. There aren't a ton of countries that straight out ban drones. There are a couple, I think there's like 5 or 6, and you can see it down below in the link for UAV Coach, where they have a list of all the drone regulations for countries. But there are a lot of variations as far as what you can fly, where you can fly, what apps you need as far as seeing if you can fly in a certain location, and there's also rules as far as weight and size. So before you get all excited about flying your drone in a new location, make sure that you can do it before you go, because there's going to be nothing worse than dragging all of your equipment to that location only to find out it's illegal to fly, or worse, throwing your drone up in the air and then having the police show up, because there is absolutely nothing worse than ending up in a foreign police officer's custody. I've never personally experienced it, but don't recommend it because it seems terrifying. Next thing to know when you're traveling is what the rules are for your airline. Not all airlines are the same, not all countries are the same. So when you're traveling with a whole lot of lithium batteries, look at your airline and see what their rules and regulations are as far as traveling with electronics or batteries. Inside the US, the rules are generally, you can't have a battery above 100 watt hours, which is pretty hard when it comes to FPV drones unless you're into bigger production drones. And then as far as DJI drones are concerned, all those are pretty much okay. But again, check with your airliner before you go. Just finished up flying this abandoned water park with my FPV drones. Now let's get back into it and let's keep focused on batteries, because batteries are kind of the most important piece when you're traveling with any drone, whether that's FPV or your traditional DJI camera drones. And the reason I say it's the most important is A, you can't fly without them, and B, they're kind of the biggest hurdle you'll have when going through an airport with your drone stuff. When packing your batteries, here's a few tips. First, make sure everything is at storage voltage. You can do that in a DJI app. You can do it for FPV with your standard FPV chargers. Pretty much all of the major chargers do some kind of storage voltage charge. Next, and this is something I personally do, I put little 3D printed caps on the contacts of all my batteries, in part because I want to make sure that there's absolutely no chance the positive and negative contacts on my battery can come into contact. Geez, that's a lot of contact words, but and also it's because I want to show when I go through security that I packed with care and packed like a professional. When it shows you cared about how you put your stuff together, generally you get fewer questions and generally you get a little bit more leeway, and getting through security is that much easier. Same reason why I go through security with one of the LiPo safe bags. Having all of my batteries together, it's easier to bring out, put in the tray when I'm going through the airport. It also makes it a lot easier to put back in once security has checked it over. On this trip, this is the first time I ever had them really give any concern for the LiPo batteries going through. They looked everything over. The TSA agent I was working with had to bring her supervisor over. At the end of the day, it was all fine because I followed all the rules. And when it comes to LiPo batteries, the rules lie both with your country's aviation authority. So in the US, it's the FAA, and with the airline itself. On your airline's website, you can see they'll have a page about permitted items. Just make sure you look at that before you go, because it gets rid of a little bit of headache when you get to the airport. Generally, the rule for LiPo batteries is you're good with anything under 100 watt hours. That covers pretty much most anything you'd use for freestyle or racing. If you're into Cinelifters, then you might start to run into an issue. If you have any questions about the watt hours of your battery, I'm gonna leave a calculator down in the description. You go to that website, punch in the number of cells, the milliamp hours, and it kicks out what the watt hours of your pack is. And just to know, that 100 watt hour number is for each individual battery. You can bring multiple batteries that add up to over 100 watt hours. You just can't have a single over 100 watt hour battery. That's why I said you're pretty much okay for any freestyle racing or cine-whoop drone battery. If you're working with cine lifters, that's a whole different story, and there you may want to contact your airline before you bring those big chonkin lipo cells with you. This tip is really more applicable to FPV than any other type of drone. When you're flying FPV, you generally need tools like soldering irons, hex drivers, stuff to fix your quad when it's broke, which also, to that quick note, make sure you bring spare parts with you, because when you travel, hunting for spare parts is going to be kind of hard, and getting them delivered from like Get FPV or another FPV store, kind of challenging. When it comes to your tools, I would recommend making sure that you put those in a checked bag, because going through security with a bunch of hex drivers and sharp soldering irons and a bunch of stuff that looks like it could be used to poke or hurt somebody, generally a bad idea. So I would recommend moving those types of items into your bag. Props may also be a question for both FPV and non-FPV pilots. I generally pack my main set of props and one spare set of props in the luggage with my drones themselves. I pack any additional props, because with FPV I generally bring a few extra sets. I put those in my checked bag. I don't want to try to go through security with like 100 extra props, not 100. I don't want to go through security with an extra like 30 props, just because I don't want to have to answer those kind of questions, and it makes it a little easier for me. So do with it what you will, but for me personally, I've been always good packing at least 2 sets of props for each drone inside my carry-on baggage, and then the rest goes into my checked luggage. Beyond that, all your other drone equipment is pretty much fine. Make sure that you have the stuff that you need, whether that's the remote, your goggles, batteries for your goggles, anything like that. Make sure you remember to pack it. Generally keep most of that stuff in your carry-on luggage, just because anything that has a lithium battery in it, you generally want to come with you on board the airplane. And also, do you really want to leave any kind of valuable equipment in your checked baggage with how frequently they seem to be losing your checked bags? But either way, all of my stuff made it here safe. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, there's affiliate links down below to all the stuff that I've talked about in this video and all my FPV kit. So please go check those links out. As always, hope you liked the video. Some flight videos from Aruba coming soon. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye.